Howdy doody, and welcome to the second episode of Severna Republic, a foundation of a nation. My ADHD has actually allowed me to do a follow-up episode. It's unbelievable. I can barely believe it myself. But yes, here we are at episode numero dos. Okay, so in the last episode, we just were going over the very basics of the game, getting Severna set up, getting the Mercury district all ready to receive a population. But on going over that video, looking at, I don't think I really explained a lot. So just in the first half of this video, I'm just going to try and go into a bit more detail about what I've done, how I set things up, just to sort of, cross the T's and dot the I's kind of thing. And also in the last video, I wasn't sure how big the main square was of the first city I'm building. So I went back and measured the whole island just so I can give you correct information when it comes to that. So it is, for each side is around 4,000 feet, which is 0.75 miles. And I'm sorry, I forgot to have a look what that is in meters, but I'm sure you'll be able to find it out. So yeah, that's the average sort of that main quad there. Yeah, so Severna itself is actually 6.8 miles north to south and 4.3 miles east to west. So it's not very big at all. Tiny little speck of land in the middle of the vast Atlantic Ocean, making a go at being a kind of self-sufficient nation. Obviously, we are not at the moment because we are having to import a lot of stuff. So just to give you a better idea of how big the island is, that's Heathrow Airport, which just about would fit on the island. So the oil supply then. So what I do is, same as everyone else does, I imagine, is you have these little, I don't know what you'd call them, but little little pumping stations in these little pans. So they flare out. So you've got, because you can't put all the pumps next to each other because they compete with each other and they're not as efficient when they're near each other. You can obviously, when you're laying them down, you see that big green circle. Try and get as much of the green circle as you can. And I noticed when you set it up, if you put the circles in the right spaces, when you get a little middle bit, and that's, I think it's about 70%. So, it's not too bad. And also, all the pumps here are being powered by windmills. So there's literally zero interaction needed for citizens with this. So they will just pump the oil out of the ground straight into the ship, all with beautiful renewable energy pumping that oil out of the ground. So the irony. So yeah, so all of the pumps, they all feed into these main, is that 5 pipes there? Well, they're all underground. I've tried to adjust the color settings because the visibility underground, the visibility underground isn't very good in the game. It tends to be quite sort of difficult to tell what you're doing and where you are. It's almost like it's 2D. I don't know whether that's just me, but yeah. Okay, so first thing it will come to is the main power plant, because that's not working. Nothing is. You can see there I've got another little tiny little heating plant, because the main heating, the biggest heating plant that we've built at the moment for the Mercury district is a little bit too far away for the prison, and these blocks of flats here were just a little bit on the cold side. Well, I don't know because nobody was living in them at the time, but I assumed they wouldn't be very warm. So yeah, so it comes to the main power plant first, as I shown in the last video. But here you can actually see the pipes and see the pumps as they go along. They're all powered by these windmills, more or less, so that will always keep that going. Even if all the power's off, all the citizens leave me, they all go, it'll still work. And the same for the water systems as well. So you've got your pumping station there. You do need to have a pump at pretty much every single stage when it comes to the water pipes. Like if you have a water tower and you just have pipes or splitters downstream of it, it won't work properly. It might let a bit of water through, just sort of trick you into thinking, oh, that's working. But it'll be such a small amount that as soon as there's a demand on that, it just won't work. So always make sure that you've got pumps in between every single point on the daisy chain of your water system. So from the pump at the ground, you need a pump to then pump it to the treatment plant, then another pump to then pump it out of the treatment plant into a water tower, and then another pump to then pump it out of the water tower. I'm not sure whether the water towers do kind of work by themselves because of gravity. They may do for a short distance, but it just don't rely on that. Just they're not expensive, especially when you're able to build stuff yourself. Just put as many pumps as you possibly can in everywhere, and you can't get wrong. Okay, so you've got all of the Mercury district pretty much will just be fed by these two big pipes here, which then come to the splitter there under the clock tower, which then splits them up. So you've got some going up towards the government buildings there, and then another one comes down, fills up this water tower here, and then there's another pump there which will pump the water just to, what do you call them, little tanks that sit by people's houses. And then next to those, I've usually got the sewerage as well, so that's coming. So that will come to this main central point here, this little pumping station there, and then it gets fed up around that big tube, sort of away from the treatment plant, which you may think, oh, that's weird, why are you doing that? I'm doing that because later on in the game, when you've got 100,000 people and you've got loads of different treatment plants and blah, 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 this will just be a mess here if you have the buildings that are near it being directly connected to it. It causes you problems later on. You're better to bring everything to like a central area, and then it all gets pumped together. Or otherwise, if you've got a building or something right at the end that's using the pipe constantly, it will cause a major problem. It will the pipes upstream of it, the tanks upstream of it, just will not empty. But they probably do, but it's yeah. And once you've got you've got to consider that the sewerage is constantly. It doesn't go anywhere. So if you have a backup that you've missed for a couple of years or something like that, it takes so much to clear that away that it's almost like you just never can do it unless you spend loads and loads of money on water treatment plants. But then once that blockage is gone, they're kind of like they're not like really needed anymore. So it's a really good idea just to make sure that you are keeping on top of your sewerage, because that sewerage and waste, I'd say, are the most difficult things to get a handle on. I would say. I mean, what have I got now on this game? Let me just check. As far as hours go, right? So I'm up to 5,926 hours on this game, and I still mess up with waste and the sewers, but getting there. I mean, the amount of republics I've built, and then it just gets to a point where you're just like, oh dear, there's so many knots that I need to untangle to get this republic working again, and it's such a shame when it just becomes too much of an issue. And then with all that motivation, like, right, I'll do it properly this time. I'll do this, and you do all that, and then it still gets you. Another situation arises. Another situation. It's relentless. Okay, so I'm waffling on. Sorry. Okay, so I'm also just going to show you through a more detailed explanation of Severna's electricity system here. So this is the main power plant. This is a gas combined cycle power station, and that can provide me with 1,750 megawatts of total energy, which should be enough to power this city if it gets up to about 30,000 people or something like that, and then it will start to struggle. Because I try and keep my power plants at no more than about 60% usage, because if you've got them at like 100% usage, if something happens to that power plant, there's a lot of people relying on it. Okay, so the backup system here, so you've got the wind generators. So I've got 20 windmills which are each putting out 56 megawatt of power, and so that would translate into 1,120 megawatts. But yeah, if somebody could tell me if the windmills make a difference in how much power they produce if you put them by the coast or on a hill or something like that, because I don't know, I've not noticed. They never seem to be like, they're good, if you put a lot of them down they will do the job, but I've never, like on City Skylines, Soviet Republic, I don't like to compare it to City Skylines because you are two very different games, you've got very different sort of goal. But yeah, when you go to build the windmills, it shows you where it's windy, it shows you where they're going to be most effective. whereas there's nothing like that in Soviet Republic. So I just assume that it doesn't really matter where you put them, but a game like Soviet Republic, I don't think that could be true. I'm sure that there's something, but I've never really been able to fathom it out. So somebody could tell me in the comments, oh yes, they do always provide more power if they're on the coast or if they're up a mountain or something like that. That would be helpful to me. Okay, so I say okay a lot. I'm really sorry if that's annoying people. I do try and edit them out, and the I do try and edit those out as well. I am getting better. Okay, so here we have the underground wires. It was to me like Christmas when the underground aspect of this game come into place, because my old republics would just be an absolute rat's nest of low voltage power lines just everywhere. I used to drive mad. I used to look at the real world, and I just used to be, how is this? Where's all the cables? Where's all the But yeah, when they brought in the underground, it did make a difference to the game, and you were able to build your republics a lot more tidier, because you know what the overground cables like, they're quite thick, thick black lines. When you've got all of the low voltage, I still use high voltage pylons because you only got a few of them, whereas the low voltage lines, Jesus, it was awful, wasn't it? They were just everywhere. It looked like it grew hair. So yeah, so we've got all these windmills here underground, and the underground cables. So they're connected to these transformers, are they? No, they're not transformers. No, they are. They are transformers, yeah, because they're bringing the high voltage down to... Well, these aren't, because they're all low. These are actually going low voltage to high voltage. They're like wired backwards, because the windmills are going into the low voltage sockets, and then the high voltage is then linking these two together, and then linking it to the main national grid. So yeah, so see that turns into a high voltage cable there. Here, see, it's two there. So that's the two connecting of those two transformers. And then it comes down here through the centre of the Mercury district, underneath the heating plant and the star there. And then we've got another transformer there, which will then reverse it back to, it's going to low voltage for the residential areas, and some vital infrastructure. And then moving further out, we've then got the main power plant kind of on the opposite side, connected at the end, so they're kind of, the town's in the middle of these two potentials. I always find it keeps it more reliable that way. So now is the moment of truth. I have built 64 blocks of flats, and I've worked out a rough estimate. There's probably, I think it was 9,600 or something like that we should be able to house in all these nice, beautifully clean blocks of flats. They're all panel buildings because they're cheap to build, and they're quite high quality for citizens as well. They're a nice balance, and I think they look quite attractive as well because they have a lot of skins, so you can adjust some of that. And I'm a sucker for white buildings. I love Spain and Greece and the places that are warm, really, where all the buildings are white. I do think that it looks pretty. If you've ever been to Cheltenham in the UK, that's like that, and Bath, nice. So 9,600 citizens should be able to live and work in the Mercury district with the buildings that I've got at the moment. That's not enough for everything that is there at the moment, so we will be having a lot more than that. I definitely need more people working in the refinery, because as you'll see later on in the video, the economy of Severna at the moment is not that great. It's we are struggling. Well, we're not struggling yet, but we are on the breadline. But I do have a lot of dollars left, because I don't really spend dollars in construction. It's more for buying vehicles and things later on in the game that I spend my dollars. But it's always nice to have it there, isn't it? Just as a bit of a backup. But I keep forgetting that it's there, and I keep building out rubles, so I've got no rubles left. So August 19th, 1960, I believe the date actually is, but I don't really take much notice of the year, to be fair, because it goes by so quickly, and then it's so it's just essentially I think this is just year one. So August 19th is when the first, let's say, boat arrives with the first citizens from many different countries around the world. They've had enough of capitalism. They've had enough of chasing that carrot, and they're and putting money in somebody else's pocket. So they've come to Severna. to help build this new republic way out in the Atlantic on its own. The only time that you can do anything that's different in politics or anything like that is if you're on your own, because otherwise it's just, yeah. So here we go. So this is the morning of August 19th, and we'll start to see the first citizens walking out to soak up the morning sun and to take a look around their new surroundings and get to know Severna, even though it will be being built around them. So yeah, there's a nice morning sun there. There we go. See them coming out. Here they come. And the festivities were actually interrupted by a fire at which I thought was the school burning. So I was like, oh, that'll be good for the citizens. Like, oh yeah, look at this lovely new life. And we brought our kids out here. Oh, the school's burning down. Great. But no, it's just I think it was volleyball court maybe, or like the little football pitch. But luckily the firefighters just about got to it before it made a scene. So yeah, here they all are, all wandering about the place. The fountains come on, so somebody's working in the water treatment plant, which is good, which means the blocks of flats have got water. That's why I like fountains. It's not just because they're pretty. If you are, they do use a lot of water, so do bear that in mind. But they're quite good visual aids to making sure that everything's working at just a glance. If your fountain's pumping out water and it's not like you'll notice sometimes if you've got some water issues, it'll be almost intermittent. It'll like pulse. That's probably not the right word, but you'll be able to see, so the football pitch caught fire. But firefighters, the proud Severnan men and women of our fire service, were on it straight away, and they were putting that fire out. So here we have Citizen Square, where people can come and enjoy the flowers and play in the fountain, meet other people. I think this part of the video is just views of Severna, so I don't really know what to say, to be fair, because you've seen it all before, I guess, but it's pretty. I might cut this bit out, I don't know. Or I might forget and leave it in. You'll see. Yeah, and I don't know whether you can see it up there. I made a flag. I got my flag into the game. I don't know whether it's... I have had a few, the random crashes to desktop, so I might not have done it properly, but it's working. It's there, look. I just think it gives a sort of personal touch, it's there, to your republic, having things like that. I wish I was better at modding. I'd like to make my own buildings, but I just goes over my head. And I think that, great power comes great responsibility. I don't know whether it might ruin the game for me if I was just able to make all random buildings and, with random properties and blah, 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 blah. It's a bit like, when you over mod. Again, I mean, luckily the mods for this game are actually quite good. They don't cause a lot of issues because I suppose none of them really affect the actual way game works. They're just, different sort of models, buildings and things, to put in your little diorama. But yeah, I think if I had the power to do anything, my temptations, I would probably do crazy things, and then the normal game would just lose its potency. Because it's happened to me so many times in the past. I have to make sure that I keep that. That fountain's just gone off. That's not good. But it's fine, because I've seen the future. This was filmed in the past. Yeah, I didn't notice that it was intermittent. It must just be, because I definitely think that this is the first wave of citizens, and I think I do get more coming in. So we've got a nice flyover shot here, which you may recognise from the titles. Oh, look at the flag! Look at it! Look at that flag! I did put a few of them around, and I was like, yeah, this is looking a bit stupid, because the problem is with them. No, it's not a problem, some guy's done it, he's made it apparent, he's very clever. But with flags, they've all got to face the same way, haven't they? And I kept putting them down, not sort of checking that. And then looked at it and I was like, God, they just don't look right. What's weird about it? Even though they weren't next to each other, if they were next to each other, I was putting them, lined up and whatever. But I was like, it's because they're all facing different directions. And in real life, all the flags are flying in whatever direction the wind is, isn't it? Okay. So this is the Severna volcanic mount. It's what's left of the volcano that gave birth to the island of Severna. In this reality, it's actually one of the tallest volcanoes in the world. From the bottom of the Atlantic. From the bottom of the Atlantic, it rose up and birthed Severna many, many years ago. and that's why it's now just worn down to this collapsed ring system. But it's where all of the coal, all of the iron, all of the uranium, and all of the bauxite is going out in those little veins that spread out from it. So obviously this is where I built the construction industry, which is the most important thing that you need to get built as soon as possible, because if you run out of money and you've not got a construction industry going, you can't get out of anything. You can't build your way out of anything. Whereas once you've got your construction industry set up, as long as you've got people and you've got gravel and wood, you can make yourself, you can make a factory, you can keep your nation going without necessarily having to spend money. But I am having to import steel because I haven't built a steel mill yet, because that's quite intensive. And obviously you need the construction industry there to build the steel mill. You can build it with cash, but it costs a lot of money, and I just don't have that. I only started the game with the 10 million rubles. So yeah, I think steel mill, just the mill itself, I think is 500,000 rubles, is it, or something like that? The default steel mill, pretty expensive. Okay, so here we are on my balcony, looking out over Citizen Square, over the shops, and we're going to have a nice little presentation whilst we have our wine and we look out over our glorious republic on this fine, I think it's actually October at the moment in the game, so it's not very warm, but we're on our balcony, and let's just have a look at the figures for Severna at the moment. So I'll pull down my little whiteboard. So first things first, population. So we've got 4,460 citizens. They're pretty happy, they're pretty well fed, pretty healthy, pretty loyal, pretty sober, pretty cultured, somewhat sporty, somewhat religious, and they've got enough clothes. So we've only got 32 unemployed workers at the moment, and as you see, the average age of the nation is extremely young at 23. In the global standards, that's practically a fetus of a country having an average age of 23. So one issue that I have at the moment is there's a lack of education on 678 people, but I think some of them may be children, because it does sometimes do that. It counts the children in with the uneducated. So you're like, oh god, I've got a really bad issue with a lot of uneducated workers, and then you look and it's okay, so there's people that are still at school. So it's all good. We've got 3,291 citizens that have gone to basic primary secondary school, and we've got 491 degree holders, and there's only 5 radios in the Republic at the moment. So everyone arrived on August 20th, it's saying there, and since then we've had 41 births and 494 immigrants, and 3 people have escaped. But then also I've invited a lot of people as well. So that would be more than 400. The 494, I assume they've come here by themselves. Is that right? Is that right? Because I definitely, when I did it with bring the people into the buildings, I bought. God, it sounds awful, doesn't it? I bought them through the building. So immigrants, they must be like another thing. That must be people arriving by themselves somehow. Them damn small boats. Oh no! But yeah, that's good. So we've got lots and lots of people coming. We've got 3,045 workers, 382 babies. Oh, I can't really read what that said. 1,033 children, and we've got no over 21-year-olds living with their parents, which is good. But we will obviously get some. But there are loads and loads of empty flats at the moment, because I only filled up big buildings, because obviously I didn't want to go around clicking on all of them, So yeah, let's carry on with this then. So yeah, so our demographics are looking pretty good at the moment, and hopefully, because I've got lots of kindergartens, people don't have to give up work to have a child, so that should encourage lots of people having babies and lots of population growth, which is a good and a bad thing. Later on in the game, you just can't seem to build houses quick enough, build residences quick enough. Just as you fill a load up, there's another 3,000 people waiting to move, needing to move out. It's good that the real world isn't like that, isn't it? Okay, so this is our dire economy. at the moment. So constructing Severna has cost 9.5 million rubles and $821,000. Oh yeah. Because I'm about to start constructing, haven't I? Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, and $821,000. And I've only managed to export 109,000 rubles worth of oil. The reason that number is so low is there has been a price fall, unfortunately, on oil, which is my main export, so that's good. So yeah, I've exported 3,976 barrels or tons or units or whatever that amount is, bitumen and fuel. But yeah, it's not brought me much money in at all, and you'll see for why in just a moment. So yeah, that's oil prices since the founding of Severna. They've just gone down and down and down. So they started off at 60 rubles and now they're down to less than 30. But just before I came off the game this evening, it did come up a little notification saying that oil prices were increasing again. So hopefully next play session I have, I'll be able to make a bit of money. We'll be able to fund, because I need to buy loads of construction vehicles, and I just don't have the money at the moment unless I buy all Western stuff. But then I've got nothing. So it's quite a dangerous situation to be in there. But the actual domestic production and consumption isn't too bad. The local economy is sustaining itself. I mean, obviously we're having to import everything except for fuel and obviously energy and such. But once the construction industry is completed, the first facilities that they will be building will be clothes and food factories. Because once you've got those set up and you're producing your own food, even if you're having to import loads of grain, as long as the difference in price between grain and food is incredible. And also you remember you're always paying a delivery charge as well whenever you buy stuff through the just through the automatic ordering kind of thing. You almost pay twice as much just in delivery. Quickly zaps your money. So even if you're having to import a lot of grain to make your own, you'll never lose money, especially if you're exporting the food out as well. Okay, so that's it then for now. So the people are settling in. We've set up the construction industry ready to go, and in the next episode I will be expanding into the Venus district, and we'll be making another residential area, but this will be much more focused at workers for the construction areas and for builders themselves to build the rest of this incredible, glorious Republic of Severna. So thank you for joining me today and listening to me ramble on about nonsense. And please do join me again tomorrow, maybe. I might be able to upload a little video tomorrow, or otherwise it will be Sunday. But please like and subscribe, and share it with all your friends that are socialists and into socialism in games and communism and city builders or whatever, please. And yeah, I'll see you on Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.